if the matter of getting involved, if getting involved in a parliament is kufr, then it should be kufr today and it should be kufr at that time.
Yeah, of course.
So now, Yusuf alayhi sorry?
Yusuf was not in a democracy.
Oh, wait a minute. Well, it's not in a democracy, but hold on. Wait. Yusuf was not in a democracy. But if it was not a democracy, it doesn't have to be only democracy. Is that the only kufr? So if it's communism, is that okay?
Of course not.
Okay, if it's feminist, if they're ruling by liberalism, is that alright?
All these other systems are
okay. So it doesn't matter what the king was ruling by, so long as he was ruling by something that was other than Allah, it's hukm bighayri ma anzal Allah. What are you talking about? Akhi, the point is that you've just made takfir indirect of Yusuf alayhi salam.
I didn't.
Is Yusuf a kafir in your opinion?
No, of course
okay,
not.
Is what he committed kufr?
No, of course
okay,
not.
so why can if I do something that a prophet did, I'm committing kufr, but the prophet can do it?
What do you mean?
If I could do something the prophet did, it's kufr, but if the prophet did it, it's not kufr. Why? If I vote or come into parliament, British parliament, it's hukm bighayri ma anzal Allah.
To vote for somebody to become a legislator.
No, forget about voting. Me being the MP myself, me.
Okay.
I'm the MP, yeah? If I want to be an MP of a Muslim to make the situation better, you're saying that's kufr.
Yeah,
but Yusuf alayhi salam, he was a minister according to what you said.
You know the incident of Yusuf alayhi salam, they say because of him you're allowed to vote.
Okay. So people, they quote the case of Yusuf alayhi salam, and they say because he was a minister in the time of, in his time when he came out of prison, that therefore, is allowed to be a minister or MP in a kufr regime and allow for us to vote for them and so on as well. Okay. It's worth for us going to this point, and I'll go into more detail inshallah tomorrow during the PM. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He informed us that Yusuf alayhi salam was one of the most meticulous on the topic of hakimiyyah. He is the one who said, even in the prisons, even when he was in the prisons, he was declaring, inil hukmu illa lillah. He was saying, forget about all these kings. I'm not going to seek refuge in them to get my right back. Come and save me. I'll worship whatever you... No. He said, no, the right of legislation belongs to nobody but Allah. To then accuse him of becoming a legislator or supporting legislation is rejected, completely rejected. Rather, what we saw in the case of Yusuf a.s., what happened was when finally the king heard about him and he wanted the interpretation of his dream, he came to Yusuf. Yusuf a.s. gave da'wah to him, and even among the Salaf, what they said was that the king embraced Islam and the Tawheed on the da'wah of Yusuf a.s. Okay? On the da'wah of Yusuf a.s., he embraced Tawheed. He became wahid. And that's when he offered him, look, come out, I will make you, a minister in my government. So Yusuf a.s. said, put me in charge of the granary, the grain and distribution of the food. So he put him in that position. So one thing we need to understand, this is number one, he became a minister. Okay? He never became a legislator. He was never a legislator. Okay? Remember what we said? There are three types of authority. Okay? Three types of authority. Okay? Al-Hakimiyyah, this is the legislative authority. Put it this way, Allah Ta'ala, He has legislative authority. Okay? And then you have two. You have courts, judicial authority, they judge by the law of Allah, and you have executive authority, sulta tanfidiyya. Okay. Humans can have this authority. As long as they rule by the law of Allah and they judge by the law of Allah. But no human can have this legislative authority, because that belongs to Allah. This is hakimiyyah. Okay? Yusuf a.s., he was a minister. So he never committed shirk in Allah. He never became an MP legislator. An MP is a legislator, partner with Allah. A minister is not. And what did Yusuf a.s. rule with when he ruled as a minister in the kingdom of the Aziz, of the king? What did he rule by? Rule by Kufr law? He ruled by Islam, by Sharia, by the law of Allah Ta'ala. What they said about it is that there's a verse when Allah Ta'ala speaks about how he wanted to capture his brother and make him a slave, because that was the law in the time of Ya'qub, to be the punishment for the thief. Okay, in the Sharia of Muhammad, to cut their hand. In the Sharia of Ya'qub, it was, if you steal, you become a slave. Okay, you become a slave for the one you stole from. So it said Yusuf AS wanted to implement this law of Ya'qub on his brother and keep him with him at the palace. But they said what? That he was prevented because of the law of the king, because the king had a different law. So here they said, what's going on? Is there a man-made law here? What's going on? Okay, so this is what they're trying to make this confusion. Number one, Yusuf AS was a Nabi, he was not a Rasul. Okay, one thing we need to understand, Yusuf AS, okay, he was a Nabi, not a messenger. Why is that important? A Nabi, a prophet, they come to receive revelation and they instruct the people with the law of the previous messenger. Okay? They come with the law of the previous, they don't come with the new Sharia. Whereas the Rasul, they come with the new message, with the new Sharia that could abrogate from people before as well. So Yusuf AS did not come with a new Sharia that needs to be implemented. He wanted to implement the law that was revealed to Ya'qub before him. Number two, he was sent to Bani Israel, not Egyptians. Okay, not Egypt. Okay, the king of Egypt, the Aziz, he was not from Bani Israel. Meaning, the laws of Ya'qub were not sent to him. It's only Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was sent to the whole of mankind, and his Sharia for the whole of mankind, and everybody expected to accept it. Whereas Yusuf AS was sent to Bani Israel. Okay, Bani Israel were ordered to obey Yusuf and Ya'qub. That's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the people of Bani Israel, they used to have a prophet come to them one after the other, and they used to judge between them by whatever Allah revealed, between among them, not among others. They weren't. It wasn't for every other nation to follow the prophet of Bani Israel. They had their own prophet sent to them. Whereas Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for us, was sent for the whole of mankind. It's different. So the king of Egypt was not ordered to follow the law of Bani Israel. That was revealed to Bani Israel only. Okay? So whether it's permissible for him to make a decision, and he had a different law from the law of Bani Israel, this doesn't mean that he was ruling by replacing Allah or as a legislator or turning his back on the Sharia of Allah. It wasn't like this. Not only that, a third point. When the ayah says that the king had a different law, what did Yusuf AS actually do? Did he implement the law of the king or the law of Allah? He implemented the law of Allah. He ignored the law of the king and he implemented the law of Allah and he kept his brother as a slave. So Yusuf AS went opposite to the king and ruled by the Sharia of Ya'qub. So how exactly does this have a proof for voting for some MP? It has nothing to do with the topic at all. What they're calling us to do is to take a Lord instead of Allah as the legislator. They want us to choose an MP instead of Allah. Okay? They're not asking us to choose a minister who's going to rule by the Sharia. Okay? If that's what the case, imagine now they had the local mayor election. Okay? Local mayor election is for executive authority. Okay? So imagine now that there was somebody who stood as a candidate and said, I will ignore everything the parliament says to me and I will rule by the Sharia of Allah alone. In this situation, if somebody voted for him, he's not going to become kafir. Because he's voting for somebody to be a human executive authority that will rule by the Sharia of Allah. Fair enough. Okay? It's one thing. Okay? But that doesn't happen because they can't. The local mayor in this country and the local council, they don't rule by the Sharia of Allah. They're ruled by the laws of the MPs, the MP Parliament. There's a big difference between the two. That's why we can't. Even the local elections, we don't vote for them. It's still kufr. Because you're going to appoint somebody to rule by man-made laws, not to rule by Islam. But the rule by the to vote for an MP is shirk in Allah. You're choosing a Lord instead of Allah. Okay? You're choosing a Lord, to legislate instead of Allah. That has nothing to do with what Yusuf did, okay, at all. Rather, Yusuf AS is a proof against them, not for them.